But I just felt like sharing this. Try to keep my mouth shut as much as I possibly can so he can speak. Here we go.
Let me be honest, probably before this video is over, some of you will consider me as an enemy. But I wanted to share a couple minutes about my thoughts, not only on the tragedies that we have been experiencing over these past months, and especially these last couple of days with the shootings of our black men. But what I'm coming to learn over my 23-year journey of being a white man, living and ministering amongst my black family.
I don't know why. I'm sorry. I told you I'd keep my mouth shut as much as possible. I don't know why. Using the black and white thing is still in existence in 2016 when we have DNA tests and all this other stuff that we can go by our what's it called, genealogy, and not this, oh, I'm white, I'm black, when we can look at ourselves and once, like I said, I know I'm in bad lighting, but my hand is brown. I'm not black, you know what I'm saying? My hoodie I have on is black, my hand is brown, so I mean, that's still, I don't know, it still irritates me when we know better.
Here in several inner cities of Chicago. And I'm going to speak very black and white because, let's be honest, it's a black and white issue. I want to take you to the book of Exodus, chapter 1, and I wanted to share a little bit of what took place prior to the rise of Moses. When I read that, it talked about that the Pharaoh became concerned and very fearful that the Hebrew slaves were growing in number and in power. So in order to maintain their oppression, he put upon them great labor. He put upon the Hebrew slaves cruelty to keep them down. However, they still grew. And so he brought together some midwives, and he instructed them that when a Hebrew boy was born, kill him. Well, these midwives did not follow, and the Hebrew slaves continued to grow. Eventually, the Pharaoh became so hatred and towards those Hebrew slaves that he made a decree. He put out an order that male baby boy Hebrew slaves were to be killed by casting them into the Nile River. Let's look at America. We brought blacks in.
That's almost, in a way, I feel like it's almost code for, as to why we see a lot of the time we see, I mean, I know our women are shot, they're hung and killed, even to this very day. But I noticed that a lot of the times the men are being killed, and I always thought maybe it was to stop the reproduction, by doing that. But, when you think about, like he's putting it to Exodus, you kill the male, you kill the seed, You see a black man, instead of arresting him or whatever, you just shoot him and you kill his seed,
To this country as slaves. We never intended them to be anything other than a slave. But they began to grow in number and in power, and eventually they fought their way to some freedom. So we became even more cruel, and to keep our black Americans down, we lynched. But yet they rose. So then we used the welfare system, the criminal justice system, to keep them down, to contain them, to destroy them. But yet they rose, and they're rising. Then we built prisons and jails to hold them. Yet they rose. And so now we are doing exactly what the Pharaoh did at the end, sending out a decree, kill him. So until we admit that when we wrote this Constitution that all men are created equal, that we never intended to include our black brothers and sisters, our nation may end up facing exactly what the Egyptians faced when they refused to let God's people go. So I'm going to say this to my white fellow Americans, that the bloodshed that is on its way is not on the hands of our fellow black Americans, but is on our hands. We are the ones that are refusing to let God's people go. We are the ones that are refusing to acknowledge.
That when he said that, it made me think about when Lex was calling the Vatican, at least the embassy in Washington, and he wanted to, have some type of meeting with the highest hierarchy, to talk about letting us go, and we're giving us the paperwork that we could cross out of America, safely through Mexico and down into Peru. And they kind of were just like, oh, we don't know what you're talking about. Because it's like they're not ready to allow it, and it makes you think about, Revelation when the children of Israel, have a peace treaty with the Antichrist, and stuff like that, are they waiting to allow the Antichrist the ability to say, all right, you can go? I just thought about, just think about that kind of stuff.
That we do not value our black brothers and sisters as equal individuals or equal Americans as us white men. And to my black brothers and sisters, the racial issues, as I've said, have been there from the very foundation, but why do we see it more? Because there's a shifting. See, us white men have been at the head since the foundation. But we've had a black president. And
one of my pet peeves, I'm sorry, but he's mulatto. All right? Morgan Freeman is more fit to be a president and have that title if you're going to go by that color-coded system. I'm just saying.
We've done everything in our power to keep him from really changing things.
Oh, he's changed a lot. Okay, he's still changed a lot. You can't get in his way, and it's not for the good. I'm not bragging. He hasn't changed anything for the good.
Now we have another minority rising to the top, a white female. What does that say?
But then again, he's not even a president. If you look into it, he's actually, the last president was in 2000. If you really want to get technical, he's actually someone filling into the seat, as if he was a president, just a seat filler at the Grammys.
Of us who are white men who have been at the head are now starting to see and fear that we are going to become the tail. And we know what we've done to you. And so now we're fearful that you're going to do to us what we have done to you. But I will say this. I've lived in a black community for 23 years. I've never been treated the way that this country has treated my black Americans. So I call out my white Americans to say we better heed, repent, acknowledge, and change.
How many white folks do you think just when they heard that, though, their hearts got hard, but they're going to be the ones witnessing the power of the Almighty? Higher.
Because if we don't, I just want to again say this. The bloodshed that we will experience is on our hands, not the hands of our fellow black Americans. I welcome your comments. I welcome your feedback. Hit me up on Facebook or go to my webpage at www.studio2911.org. Again, that's studio2911.org. I don't necessarily know the answer, except for us white Americans need to repent acknowledge the lies that we have taught, acknowledge our value system of equality. It is not here, and it does not include our black brothers and sisters. And we need to change, and we need to change now. Thanks for your time.